Hello everyone and welcome to today's Chrissy B Show. Now from the 15th until the 19th of February will be OCD Week of Action. During this week, people are encouraged to take action and fight against obsessive compulsive disorder. So we're going to be helping raise awareness about this condition that affects about 1 in 50 people. So let me tell you who my guests are today. We have Media and Communications Officer from OCD Action, Olivia Bamber, and she'll be telling us about what the charity does and also about her personal experience with OCD and overcoming it. And we also have real life story guest Cerys Pumphrey, who was diagnosed at 16 with OCD, and she's still going through it now. And you know, she's going to be talking about her work to try and stop the stigma that comes with having mental health disorders. And we also have our resident psychologist Dr Audrey Tang, who's also going to be giving a breakdown of this condition and also offering some help to our real life story guest. Plus we have a healthy recipe with Hannah Richards, which is known to, she's going to be using ingredients known to help people with mental health conditions. And later on I'll also be talking to you about how I also took action against compulsive behaviour that I had in the past. Now before we meet my first guest, let's take a look at this video.
Two components to obsessive compulsive disorder: obsessions and compulsions. Excessive checking is one form of compulsion, but there are several kinds of obsessions and compulsions that can be found in sufferers. Common kinds of obsessive thinking include a feeling of being contaminated or spreading contamination, a fear of somehow causing harm to someone, intrusive thoughts of a sexual or violent nature, excessive attention to tidiness, order, or symmetry. And these, in turn, lead to compulsive behaviours such as being unable to do anything until objects feel right and are in order, or excessive checking, particularly of locks and switches, constantly asking for reassurance, often repeating words or phrases to reduce anxiety.
An obsession is a repeated intrusive image, idea, or an impulse that's typically experienced as extremely distressing and resisted. A compulsion arises because of the anxiety caused by an obsession.
For example, if someone has obsessions about something being dirty or contaminated, the compulsion will come about in order to try and get rid of this imagined contamination. So for example, if someone thinks they've touched something that's contaminated, they might then wash their hands in order to get rid of the contamination and bring their anxiety levels down.
Or if you think that you've left the door undone, then you have to keep checking if it feels locked as such. And these things are of course distressing, because of course they then feed the obsessions, and it goes round in a vicious circle.
We all experience intrusive thoughts and we all engage in habits, but when OCD becomes a disorder is when it takes up a significant amount of time of somebody's day and causes distress and interference in their day-to-day life.
Obsessive compulsive disorder affects over 1 million people in the UK. There are varying degrees of severity. The mildest sufferers may go through their entire lives without ever knowing they have OCD. But for people at the other end of the scale, the disorder can drastically affect their ability to do what's important to them and the lives of those around them. It can completely dominate a personality and prevent a sufferer from living his or her life to the full. It can drive people away and leave sufferers feeling very isolated. Picture the interior workings of the brain of someone experiencing obsessive thoughts. The anxiety caused by OCD makes it difficult to resist the urge to carry out a compulsion once an obsession is triggered. Someone with OCD will almost find an argument going on inside their head. Part of them knows it doesn't make sense to carry out a compulsion, yet it feels too scary not to.
We have to check. What if it's not locked? Maybe You accidentally unlocked it when you went back to lock it.
No, but we
Gotta
can't.
check. What if it's not locked?
When a person has OCD, I often think about it as having two parts of their brain, the sensible part and the OCD part. So a person might, for instance, leave their home and then the obsession comes in that they haven't locked the door and that things are not safe. There's another part of their brain, however, that says, I know that's not the case. I remember locking the door and I'm not going to go back. But there's a fight between those two parts of the brain. And when you're struggling with OCD, it's often the nonsense part of your brain that wins out.
It is essential that a person with OCD is diagnosed by a health professional, most commonly their GP. Many people with OCD are unable to resist their obsessions, compulsions and avoidances, but learn to work around them. Underneath, they may be very distressed.
So with me now I have Media and Communications Officer at OCD Action Olivia Bamber. Hello Olivia.
Hello.
Thanks so much for joining us today.
That's okay.
So this week that we're having is going to be very important to you personally because you've had your own experience with OCD, haven't you?
Yeah, that's right. That's kind of how I got involved in the charity in the first place. It was a charity that I used for support when I wasn't very well.
Right, okay.
And then kind of once I felt like I was feeling a lot better, I wanted to get involved and kind of give something back to a charity that had done a lot for me.
Oh, that's lovely. Can you tell us what was going on with you and how it was for you mentally?
Yeah, so I mean I've had OCD since I was quite young and kind of during my kind of teenage years it started to get quite a lot worse, and when I was at university I suffered really badly with contamination OCD to the point where I mean it completely controlled my life. I had stopped going to university. I was pretty much kind of confined to my house because of it, so it was quite all-consuming really.
For the benefit of the viewers that don't actually know much about that, can you describe maybe what like a typical day would be like with that condition?
The thing with it is it takes up so much time, so imagine kind of having a thought and you can't get rid of that thought and it's there 24/7. So I mean the easiest thing to do is stay in bed. So I would just stay in bed and I would cry and I would kind of wish that I was someone else because I couldn't do anything. It's so debilitating. Even putting a pair of trousers on was very difficult and I needed help with it. So it really does kind of consume every part of your day.
So you came across the charity. How did you come across it? Were you just Googling or someone told you about it?
So yeah, kind of once I knew, that my thing had a name, then it was just kind of, okay, am I the only person in the world that has this?
Because I think
there's a lot of misconceptions about OCD, about what it is, and I don't think people really kind of understand. And I started to Google and use support forums, like online forums, to talk to other people who had, similar conditions and who could help.
Okay. And what help did you get from the charity?
Just kind of using that online information, online support forums. My mum called the helpline and for support for herself because
that's very good point,
yeah,
isn't it?
the thing with OCD
members.
is it doesn't just affect the person with it affects everyone involved, family members and friends. It really is kind of really debilitating for everyone. So
okay, and what's the actual the OCD Week of Action all about? What are you expecting to get from it, and how's it going so far?
Yeah, so it's our main campaigning week, and it basically just means that we encourage people to get help for OCD all year round. And really, what this week is just kind of a main campaigning week where everyone can get involved, whether you have OCD, whether you know someone with OCD, whether you're just interested. It's all about kind of using that momentum of everyone being involved and kind of taking action to fight it.
Now, this also happened last year. Can you tell us what happened then and what the results were like?
Yes, so we had a website created where you could go on and you could create your own action plan. So if you're a person with OCD, you had lots of choices. How can I get help? And you'd make your action plan. And then we kind of kept in touch with you throughout the week and after the week to see if you'd done those actions. So going to the GP,
so you're not by yourself, you're sort of interacting with people.
And that's the idea of the week, is that everyone gets involved, whether you have the condition or you're just interested or you know someone who has it. And everyone fights together in that week.
Yeah. In terms of people that aren't affected by it, maybe they don't have it and they don't have a family member or friend that has it, what do you think? What would you like to see how the public getting involved? What would you like to see from the general public? Is it more like just understanding people with OCD, or is it something more? What do you think?
It's everything. I mean, just having an understanding can make a huge difference because, you know, people don't know a lot about OCD, and a lot of the time, you know, it is misunderstood and it's called quirky, or it's called a bit of a joke, and people say, I'm so OCD, you know, it's thrown about all the time. And for someone with the condition, that can be, it can be really debilitating, and that could be the thing that stops them going and get help. So
I suppose you feel more isolated when you get comments like that.
Yeah, exactly. You know, it is a serious illness, really, and for people just to kind of make themselves aware of what it is, you know, help the charity, fundraise, you know, talk to someone about OCD if you think you know someone who has it, give them some information about how they can get help, that kind of thing.
Okay. Now, in terms of treatment, what's actually worked for you?
So there's 2 recommended treatments for OCD, and they were the 2 that I used. They are medication and cognitive behavioural therapy, also known as CBT. So the medication that used is almost like a kind of like an anti-anxiety type of medication, and it's often used alongside CBT. So CBT is really the therapy, it's a talking therapy, and it's really the kind of therapy that gets to the bottom of OCD. And with CBT, when you have it, you don't just have the sessions and then you go off, you know, on your own. You kind of, you learn these techniques to carry through with your life for how you can fight OCD if it does come back, or if it does start to, you know, manifest itself again.
Okay. So did you get to the roots of why the OCD symptoms and everything? Did you get to that?
Yeah, so you know, CBT is a really practical therapy. It kind of, you tackle it head on, you tackle the OCD head on, and with lots of exposure work, and you work with the therapist to do that, and then afterwards, and like with myself, you know, every now and again, you know, my OCD will start to get a little bit worse, but I've learnt those techniques within CBT.
So you kind of nip it in the bud when it starts.
Nip it in the bud. You know exactly what you need to do, and you don't let it progress. And it's kind of knowledge is power in that case, and that's what CBT does.
When I was watching some videos about it, and someone described it as like it's like another person that's sort of telling you to do something, and but it's like, I suppose you kind of can have an argument with that person and say, look, I'm not going to do what you're saying. I'm gonna be stronger than you. So it's kind of like learning those kind of techniques as well.
Yeah, that's basically it. You know, OCD is a bully. It's like someone in your head telling you to do something, and if you do it, you'll just get worse and worse. And what you have to do is you have to stand up to it and say, no, I'm not going to do that. Yeah, it's going to make me feel a bit anxious. I'm not going to feel good about not doing it, but in the long run, it's going to back off and it's going to go away.
Olivia, thank you so much for speaking to us. I'm sure that's enlightened our viewers, and you know, we're all going to get involved. That's why we're doing the show today, to raise more awareness about it as well.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. All right, guys, so don't go away, because after the break we have another real life story. Guest Cerys Pumphrey. Now, she was diagnosed with OCD at 16, so she's going to be telling us all about it after the break. Hi, I'm Chrissy B, and my show is all about improving your mental health and being happy. Join me every Monday, Wednesday and Friday at 10 p.m. on my channel Sky 203. Visit chrissybshow.tv for more information, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Chrissy B Show. You can also follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Chrissy B Show, and on our Facebook page, The Chrissy B Show. Welcome back to today's programme, where we are talking all about OCD, because OCD Week of Action is between the 15th and 19th of February. So we've just spoken to Media and Communications Officer from OCD Action, Olivia Bamber, and she told us about what the charity does and also her own experience with OCD. Now, before I meet my next guest, let's take a look at this short film all about OCD Action's Youth Advisory Panel, which is a group of volunteers under 25 who are affected by OCD themselves.
I set up the Youth Advisory Panel a couple of years ago to make sure that young people's voices were represented within OCD Action.
We have a large online presence on our website, as well as Twitter and Facebook. We offer support for young people with OCD aged under 25 years.
We have 9 different roles. These range from sort of support to the chair, to the secretary and the marketing officer. One of the things that the Youth Advisory Panel does is that they facilitate events like face-to-face meetups for young people under 25 who have OCD.
We've been to Thorpe Park, we've been bowling, and the last thing we did was go on a canoeing activity day.
It was like a race in the end. We had a treasure hunt, and everybody had to follow clues in order to canoe to different places on Lake Coniston, and then there was a winner. Actually, there was no winner because there was some cheating. I was not involved.
We want young people to get together and meet face to face, and to do that in a fun and safe environment.
I do think it's important for us to have a group that can specifically look after the needs of younger people and actually encourage them to talk to each other.
We have run a session with the youth panel to basically talk about social media and how we can make the most of our time online and how we can engage well with our followers, with our members and potential members and volunteers. And basically we've held a discussion on the sort of things that OCD Action are doing on social media and what OCD Youth are doing on media, and basically how we can utilise that to its full potential.
So we had a couple of people come along to Birmingham, which is brilliant. And we also Skyped a few people in and had a little mini workshop.
I'd really recommend getting involved with OCD Youth, as it's a really good opportunity to get to know other like-minded people and form a really good support network for yourself.
OCD Youth is extremely important for many reasons. I believe in this because we need to support each other, be here for each other, and know that we are not alone.
There are lots of activities that the young people do, so it's a wonderful program to get involved in.
The YAPAs is a really important group for us.
So now I have joining me real life story guest via Skype, Cerys Pumphrey. Hello, my darling.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. Thanks so much for joining us.
No problem.
So you've had your own, well, you're having your own experience with OCD. Now, you were diagnosed, it says here, when you were 16?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay then. What was going on before that? How did you realise that something was wrong?
Honestly, I didn't realise until one of my friends told me about it, because one of my friends has anxiety and depression. So I never knew anything about mental disorders and mental health disorders. I didn't think about it. I was never educated about it. So I never thought about anything. So when my hands cracked and got dry in the winter, I just thought it was normal. But in year 11, one of my friends, the friend that has anxiety and depression, got a pen that had been in someone's mouth the week before. And she was joking, and then she touched my face. And I started crying in the middle of the class. And then she goes to me, Cerys, that's not normal. You have to check that out. And it was after that only that I realised maybe I've got something wrong with me.
Okay. But what other things were you doing, or have you been doing, that pointed to OCD?
Looking back on it, I got confused with the voice of conscience, because everyone with a mental health disorder, they have sort of voice that tells them to do things. And I got that confused with the voice of conscience, because when you do something that the voice of OCD says you do, it sort of makes you feel better doing it. So looking back on it, I realise now that it was always there and it was always telling me to do things, but I thought it was my voice of conscience instead.
Can you describe some of the things that it would tell you to do?
So if I touched something I thought was dirty, could be bodily fluid, it could be absolutely anything, something that I had no idea what it was, but just in case, my voice of OCD would say, don't touch that, or if I touch that, wash everything that could have come in contact with it.
Okay. And how did this actually affect your life? Because did it affect your friendships? Did it affect your family? What happened there?
Unfortunately, with my friendships and my family, worst of all, got hit by me being diagnosed with OCD, and they still have to suffer with me every day, because the amount of money that my OCD costs through washing myself through the soap I buy through
Didn't even think of that. Wow.
I feel horrible seeing the strain it has on my family, not just financially, but also emotionally, because sometimes I can't hug them. Sometimes I think that something's dirty, so I have to ask them to do it. And it's hard for them because I can see the hurt that they feel through what I have to do, but I can't stop doing it.
Okay. But are they also getting support for this?
No, they're not. They try to support me, but they're not actually getting support themselves.
Have you mentioned it to them, like to get support?
We've never actually thought about getting support.
Yeah. Just because our previous guest mentioned it about, you know, family getting support as well, and I think it's something quite important. I'm sure Audrey's also going to talk about that as well, because just to be able to for them to understand the condition better, and you know, be able to support you and understand when maybe you don't want to hug them, because I know it must be really hard. I mean, I didn't go through OCD to your extent, but I remember when I had depression, I didn't want to hug my family, not because of contamination issues, but I didn't want to be near them because it seemed to hurt more when I was with them. And that, obviously, that I didn't know what was going on with me. They didn't know what was going on, and it did affect the family. But mental health issues weren't really discussed very much back then, as they are now. So, you know, it is important I think for everyone to get support, because you know, do you end up feeling guilty sometimes because of it?
As much as my parents try to understand, and my brother, I can see that sometimes it's hard for them to understand because there's no education about mental health issues. So because they don't understand, I feel guilty because they are so hurt by it, even when they try to understand. And I know that, but I can't stop. But that's the thing that hurts me so much, the fact that I can't stop hurting them.
But obviously, you know, I'm sure everyone watching, and Audrey is going to also tell you that, you know, there is nothing to feel guilty about, but sometimes we do. I did as well. Like, you sort of hurt your family unintentionally, but there's nothing it's not your fault. It's not our fault when, you know, that happens, which is why it's so important to get the support. Now, Cerys, you've been very brave to speak about this on TV. Can you tell us why you felt the need to do that, and, you know, why you accepted to do something like this on TV?
Well, when I was diagnosed with OCD, I was thrown into this world where no one really understood what OCD was. No one really had the education about mental health disorders. So I started doing a campaign with the charity called Fixers. My title was to help the stigma and ignorance of mental health issues, to teach people, because when I was diagnosed, I could see when I told my friends and my family, they had no idea how to support me. They had no idea what it was. They didn't understand it because it's not logical. Of course, like, mental health issues aren't logical. So
for other people that aren't going through them, right? They don't get it.
Like, for example, I could do rugby, but I couldn't, touch a door handle. So they got very confused. They were like, well, what? So.
Okay, so it's great you're doing that. How is that going? How's that campaign going?
It's really good. I started a clip called the Silent Breakfast Club to basically spread the message about what it's like for people with mental health disorders, to educate people, as well as to reach out with people who have mental health disorders to show that they're not lonely, because from personal experience, I know how lonely having a mental health disorder is. And I wanted people to know that they're not alone, that some people are out there that have the same emotions and feelings and are going through the same thing as you are.
Actually, we're going to be playing that video after the break, Cerys, and I have to say I watched it and I thought it was brilliant, the way it was put together. It keeps you really engaged and you really understand, you know, what's going on. So well done for that. That's really, really good. So we will be showing the viewers that one afterwards. Now, what would you say to other people that maybe have these obsessions, these compulsions, and they're not sure what to do, they feel very isolated, they kind of want to talk about it, but they're afraid to? What would you say to them?
I'd say go to your doctor. I did. I made an appointment. You don't have to tell anyone else. The doctor's confidential, and they won't laugh at you. They'll take you seriously. Within 5 minutes of me walking into the doctor's, they said, it's obvious that you have some sort of problem, and I'm going to refer you to CAMT, which was the Children and Adolescents Mental Health Services.
Yeah.
And they were fantastic, and I'm so glad that I decided to do that, because I dread to think where I would be if I didn't get help.
Yeah, I mean that is so important, because, like I said, as I was saying earlier, it's not like it used to be with mental health issues, and there are so many people out there that are going through the same thing. And like when you hear other stories, and when you hear about, you know, that there's treatments available, it's such a relief that you don't have to, you know, put up with this on your own, and like you've got the support there as well.
Yeah, my psychiatrist, not the one that I have now because I've just moved services, but the one that I had before in the adolescent mental health services was amazing. Like whenever I saw her, I felt a lot better, and I felt like renewed energy to beat this thing inside me.
Yeah, brilliant. All right, Cerys, I'm not going to let you go because you're going to stay with us, because I have Audrey coming on after the break, and she's also got her own questions for you, and also will be helping yourself and the viewers actually with some advice. Okay?
Okay.
So all right, guys, so we're going to keep Cerys with us here, so do join us after this. Hi, I'm Chrissy B, and my show is all about improving your mental health and being happy. Join me every Monday, Wednesday and Friday at 10 p.m. on my channel Sky 203. Visit chrissybshow.tv for more information, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Chrissy B Show. You can also follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Chrissy B Show, and on our Facebook page, The Chrissy B Show. Welcome to our show today in support of OCD Week of Action, which is taking place between the 15th and the 19th of February. So we've been talking to our lovely guest here, Cerys Pumphrey, and she was telling us about the condition. And also we have Dr Audrey Tang with us. Hello, Audrey.
Hello, Chrissy.
How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Brilliant to have you again. Now we're going to watch the video that Cerys mentioned earlier. So let's take a look now.
What do I do? It looks so dirty. I should have brought my own. No, then people think I'm weird. Is there a toilet nearby? I guess I could use it quickly, then go and wash my hands. What if there's no soap? Did I bring my own soap? What if there's someone else in the toilet? I need hand wipes. Maybe I could use them under the table and no one would notice. I don't want to eat this. I could say I've already eaten, but I just ordered this. Why did I order this? I could eat a bit. It looks so greasy though. I don't want to be fat. Everyone will think I'm fat. My thighs look really fat. Do they think I'm fat now? Am I the fattest here?
Why aren't these two speaking? I guess they're not really my friends. Friends talk, don't they? They hate me, probably. Why do they hate me? They're probably plotting secretly how to kill me right now. They must have got the cook to poison the food, or the drink, or both. I bet they think I'm evil. Maybe they're going to kill me after and leave me for dead.
What if Jenna thinks I'm weird? I bet Lucy thinks I'm
They hate me, probably.
What if they didn't want to be my friends anymore?
Maybe they're going to kill me.
If you're suffering from mental health problems,
From OCD to schizophrenia,
open up to your peers and seek support.
How you feel. Open up, leave nothing to reveal.
Brilliant video, don't you think?
Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah.
Very powerful.
Yes.
And it really kind of says, it encapsulates everything in just a couple of minutes.
Yeah, it does. You just got an understanding for it immediately, haven't you?
Not just how it feels for the person, but actually how it can make other people feel.
Yes.
And if the young man, although they already portrayed him as slightly paranoid anyway, even if he hadn't been, you could see how that could develop if he continued
hanging around with his friends who weren't talking about what was actually going on.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, very powerful.
Okay, so we've got Cerys still with us. Hello, my love. Okay, so this is Audrey. I know
Hi.
you haven't met her.
Hello.
Okay, we can't see her on the screen at the moment, but we can hear her voice. So Audrey, do you have, obviously you heard what she was saying earlier. There she is, bless her. What she said earlier. So what did you think of what she said so far? What can you identify?
I think one of the reasons why it is so important to raise awareness of OCD, and this relates to Cerys and to Olivia, your earlier guest, is that whilst in the UK only about 1.2% actually suffer from OCD, the ones who do, over 50%, suffer from severe OCD. And this is the case for Cerys, and it's also the case for Olivia, although Olivia's a little bit further down the line in terms of treatment. So the whole problem with OCD is, whilst it may not be quite as prevalent as some of the other mental health disorders, someone who has it often has it very badly, and that's where a lot more of the problems can come. I mean, in terms of what Cerys was saying, I don't think it's quite my place to ask the questions because I'm not her psychologist, but what I noticed when you were talking, especially about your family, there just seemed to be a lot of anger there. You used the word suffering an awful lot. You quite, almost frustration. Is there an inner kind of feeling of frustration or anger or something in there about having OCD?
Yeah, I feel very frustrated that I have it, because it's not only me that it's affecting, it's my family. Like, if it was just me, then I would learn how to deal with it, I'd be fine, and I'd just keep it. But the fact that my family has to deal with it as well, and I have to see their hurt through my mental health disorder, that's too far for me. I hate the fact that I caused them that pain, so I just want to get rid of it.
And this is something that I'm sure your psychologist and psychiatrist will work through with you, but it isn't something that you need to feel guilty about, in that I know you're saying you're causing them distress, but
this is what
that's
I'm
not
picking up
actually
on. It's not you that's causing the pain, it's the disorder that is. And, you know, I think people have to see it, even as you said earlier, Cerys, it's two separate things. That the condition is not you and you are not the condition.
And how they choose to react to it, how your friends, how your family choose to react to what's going on with you, is also their choice as well. You are not responsible for how they choose to respond. And that all ties up with OCD, and this is what CBT actually works through, is our choice of response to the trigger, to the stimulus. So, for example, with, say, you hear a noise or something like that, someone with OCD may, because it's obsession and compulsion. The obsession is the thought that just goes on and on and on in your head, and the compulsion is the behaviour that you have to then do to get rid of that thought. So if you have somebody who, say, heard a noise, they could think generally, oh, it's the cat, that's fine, or it's the dog, and they might leave it. But someone with OCD may think, there's a burglar and I have to go downstairs and check what's going on.
So the case here is...
And with CBT, what they will do is they will work with you to reassess that immediate response to that thought. So it's not saying that the thought is wrong, and it's just challenging that response and saying that there are often other responses that you can have. Olivia talked about medication as well, and she talked about anxiety-reducing medication, which is great because it allows you to be able to function, to go through with the CBT, and Cerys also talked about the exposure-response treatment, which is where you get exposed to the anxiety and then you try and learn it's not that bad. I know you weren't quite sure whether that quite got to the root of things. I think CBT may well be more successful, but are you about to, you've just started CBT, or you've done something already with it?
We've just started it, so we're just making the hierarchy at the moment.
Okay. But research from America has recently said that OCD could be caused by an imbalance of neurotransmitters, and it's that people with OCD don't seem to have neurotransmitters that are firing quite as normally, and so medication that raises serotonin levels can actually be more successful. And it's a similar. You can improve your diet to try and improve those serotonin levels by vitamin B6, which is found in pistachio nuts and things like that. And tuna fish, I think, is another one.
Did you know about that, Cerys, about the diet?
I'm vegetarian.
Well, pistachio nuts will be okay.
Keeps the pistachios.
But it's slightly. That's just a slightly different medication. So what that one allows you to do is almost with more serotonin, it allows you to concentrate a little bit better and allows you to break through those automatic thoughts, the obsession that's going on in your head. Again, research has shown that medication and CBT together is the most effective form of treatment, not just one on its own. So whether it is raising serotonin levels, whether it is anti-anxiety, it doesn't hurt to have that alongside the talking therapy as well. The talking therapy gets to the root and then will help with managing the trigger.
Now, as well as obviously the treatments available, how much does it depend on the person's own, I would say, mental strength to fight this?
Well, what's lovely to see is how empowering Cerys is. You are so determined to fight it, and that strength is wonderful. Where did that come from?
I think it's just when like my psychiatrist and I look at what stops me and like what puts me forward and stuff like that, the two things that we identified as my ambition and my loved ones. So my ambition to do well in life, so to make something of myself, to make a career, and the fact that I'm hurting my loved ones through this, like no matter if I can control it or not, like it's still hurting them. So those two things really like push me forward.
And it's some people need to get to that stage first, and as also Cerys was saying, you had to work through to that stage, didn't you, as well? It wasn't there naturally. The first step is often getting help, and that can sometimes only come through a loved one or a friend saying, look, there is something wrong here, and being with you to go and seek help. They can't help you, and that's one of the most important things, because OCD and all kinds, and all mental health disorders, it's almost like this shadow that hangs over you, and it's like fighting the dark side. If you're not trained, you can't do it because you get sucked into it, and that can leave you as the friend or the family member resentful of that person or angry with that person, which doesn't help that person. All you can do as the family member is get them to seek help and be there for them if help takes a little bit longer to come, or if there's delays along the way. You can't, as the friend or the loved one, unless you're trained, and even then I wouldn't suggest it because you're too close to the situation, you can't fight it. It's got to be fought by the person suffering alone, but with advice and support from a trained professional who almost is like the objective voice of reason in there and can keep them straight and narrow.
Audrey, what about, because we did mention about support for family members, because obviously it does hit family members, whatever the mental health condition is, it can really affect other family members. It's very important to get support for family members as well, isn't it?
I actually think family therapy is so important regardless. So if a member of the family is suffering from any form of mental disorder, whether it's OCD, whether it's paranoia, schizophrenia, whatever it is, because there is a tendency for parents themselves to actually take on blame. So they will feel guilt. I caused this to happen. If I'd done something different, this may not have happened.
My mum did that when I got depressed. It had nothing to do with my parents. So great parents, but my mum thought it was because of her. She was too soft, she was this, she was that. She just blamed herself.
And that actually makes it worse for the sufferer.
It does. It does, doesn't it,
like
Cerys?
My mum did that. Like I came home.
Mums just feel guilty about everything.
And I was like, right, I'm really sorry to say this, but I've got OCD. And she goes, what did I do wrong? How did I bring you up wrong? And she cried in the first therapy session that we went to because she came with me because I was too scared. And she cried because she thought it was her fault.
Yeah, that's mums for you, especially.
It is, and bless them. I can understand why it happens, but then it does become about the family member, not about the sufferer. And that's where the problem comes in. So if the family members can seek help through someone else or through someone who can offer family therapy, ideally not the same person, it can make a huge difference because they can talk through any of the things that I'm not saying that they would necessarily cause it, but there is a view of OCD that it can be learnt.
Yeah.
It can be due to, there are risk factors associated as well. So it can be due to, for example, an over-controlling family. The OCD sufferer, usually the child, might have an obsession with food because actually putting something in their mouth is the one thing they have control over. So if everyone is controlling everything else they're doing, they can still control that. So it doesn't hurt for the family to seek help themselves, and also for them to realise they aren't to blame either.
Yes, I mean, look, no one's to blame.
No,
OCD's to blame.
Exactly.
And that's why we are fighting this during this week. That's coming up. Cerys, my darling, you've been amazing. Thank you so much for sharing your story, and all the best with everything that you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Audrey, thank you so much again for your expert advice and motivation as well. I love it.
No, it's a tough world out there.
It is, but we're going to fight these things and we're going to overcome them. All right, guys, so don't go away, because after the break I have one more video to show you, and also I'll be speaking about how I took action against my own compulsive behaviour that I had in the past. Hi, I'm Chrissy B, and my show is all about improving your mental health and being happy. Join me every Monday, Wednesday and Friday at 10 p.m. on my channel Sky 203. Visit chrissybshow.tv for more information and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Chrissy B Show. You can also follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Chrissy B Show, and on our Facebook page, The Chrissy B Show. Welcome back to today's programme, and we are doing this show in support of OCD Week of Action, which is taking place between the 15th and the 19th of February. So we've had some great guests on today, and if you've missed the beginning of this programme, don't worry, you'll be able to catch it on YouTube in a few days' time. And the YouTube channel is Chrissy B Show. Just subscribe and you can watch this show and also our previous shows. Now, to recap what OCD is like for someone living with it, here's an OCD Northern Ireland video. Let's take a look.
My name is Laura, and I have one question. What if? What if I get sick from touching that? What if others make me sick from not being careful enough? What if I don't lock the door and someone breaks in?
Give me all your tea bags.
The what if question goes through my head hundreds of times a day. It's a constant doubt. It brings constant fear. That's because I suffer from Obsessive Compulsive Disorder. Obsessive Compulsive Disorder, also known as OCD, is a mental health condition which causes intrusive, repetitive thoughts and behaviours. These cause me extreme distress. OCD is a highly debilitating condition. OCD is characterised by two main traits. 1. Obsessions, and 2. Compulsions. Some examples of these behaviours would be obsessively counting steps because I think something bad will happen if I don't. Making extensive lists because everything needs to be perfect. If it's not perfect, I feel anxious, frustrated, and I feel like a failure. OCD makes me responsible for everything. This can be overwhelming at times and often makes me feel depressed. But wait, I know what you're thinking. I like to count. I always wash my hands. I'm a wee bit OCD. Well, you can relax. There's no such thing as being a wee bit OCD. Sometimes people don't understand OCD very well. OCD is not a quirk, it's not a joke, and it's not a badge you wear just because you organise your books by date of publication. People often don't realise the crushing anxiety that comes with OCD.
I'm totally OCD.
The good news is that OCD can be fought against. I took the step and got help. I get cognitive behavioural therapy, and with the help of an amazing therapist, I have been able to overcome most of my OCD. I've got my life back. I have a future. I'm not scared every day anymore. I'm living, not just existing. My hope for this project is that OCD sufferers will never have to suffer alone again.
So now what I'd like to speak to you about, I'm going to give you some tips on how I took action against compulsive behaviour. Now, something that I went through in the past, along with the depression and everything else that I was going through, were strange behaviours, I would describe. So basically what used to happen, I have spoken about this before in a previous show that we did about OCD, but I'll just recap for the benefit of the viewers that maybe didn't see that show. So what would happen to me, I would be out on the street, and if I saw someone else's rubbish, this voice would tell me to pick up the rubbish, or else something really bad would happen to a family member. And it wasn't just picking up other people's rubbish, it was also other things, like I would walk past the poster, you know, the billboards, and the voice would tell me, it wasn't an audible voice, it was just something there in the back of my mind, but it was very loud. If I walked past a billboard in the streets, the voice would tell me, if you don't go back and read every single thing that's on that billboard, something's going to happen to your boyfriend, or your family's going to die. You know, think things like that. And it was really difficult, because I would be basically doing whatever this voice told me to do, because I was so afraid of the consequences. So I'll be giving some tips on how I beat that in my life. I don't have any of that anymore. Now, obviously, you should seek professional help for this issue, because it can get really out of hand. But I'm just giving you a little bit of extra help and advice on what I did with those negative thoughts that used to control me. So the first thing that I did, I saw the thoughts as my enemy. So see the thoughts as your enemy if you're going through something like that. Because, you know, sometimes these thoughts appear to be your friend. They appear to be looking out for you. So, for example, you'd want someone to alert you if maybe you'd left the iron on, or you hadn't locked your front door. And it's okay to check. There's nothing wrong with checking. But if you check and the door is locked, and then this friend starts to tell you, oh, go back again because it's not really locked, that's not right. That friend is actually an enemy. And the way I saw it was, this is an enemy that's actually laughing at me. It's laughing at me when it sees me picking up things, other people's rubbish, and putting it in the bin. It's laughing at me when I go and read that billboard. That's how I started to visualize this thing, and I could see that I was a puppet in its hands. So the second thing that I did, I started to think logically. So I started to question those thoughts using my intellect. So for example, in my case, picking up rubbish in the street. What did picking up rubbish have to do with my family's safety? There is no logical link. There is no connection whatsoever. So instead of panicking and, you know, giving into those thoughts that I was having, I started to think for myself, is there really a connection? And no, there wasn't. And my third point is, I said, no more. No more. So what did I do? I started to get angry about the situation. I started to think, do you know what? As you would if someone was actually treating you that way. There comes a point where you're thinking, you know what? Get lost. I don't want you in my life anymore. I don't need you in my life anymore. You're not going to treat me this way. And that's how I started to, that's the kind of attitude that I had towards those thoughts. And then the fourth point was, be stubborn. Now, I was getting support for what I was going through with the depression and the panic attacks, and also these negative thoughts. I was having counselling. I was going to some seminars that were really helping me. I was getting spiritual support. So I was, looking after myself in that sense, trying to get through the things that I was going through. But the thoughts still did try to come back. They still tried to have a hold on my life. But I had to be more persistent and more stubborn than those thoughts. Then those, because it was OCD anyway. And eventually, because I was so stubborn, because I wouldn't give in, because let me tell you, sometimes mental health issues, they really put up a good fight, but because I wouldn't give in, eventually these things stopped, and I'm completely healed from everything now. So it is possible. You have that strength inside of you. It's just channeling that in the right way to be able to overcome these things. And, the OCD Week of Action is actually talking about beating OCD. And that's why I really wanted to do this topic, because I really agree with the whole concept of it, like fighting it, not accepting to live with something that's hurting you. So those, as I said, those are my points. Again, do get professional help if you are going through something. And, using all the tips and things that you've learned today, I'm sure it's going to make a big difference in your life. Now, before I go, they do say that some dietary changes can support other treatment forms in, managing symptoms of OCD. So, for example, fruits and vegetables are supposed to be really good, and also fish like mackerel. So we have Hannah Richards here with a recipe that can actually also support your fight against OCD. Let's take a look.
Hello and welcome to the MTS Kitchen. My name's Hannah and today I'm going to show you how to make a really quick and easy breakfast full of good protein, good fats and yummy carbohydrates. I'm going to do a mackerel and avocado open sandwich. I've just toasted some sourdough bread. Sourdough, although not gluten-free, it doesn't have any yeast in it, which is an ingredient that gives lots of people issues. So if you don't want to go gluten-free, your next best choice is a sourdough bread. I'm going to use a really good fat, which is avocado. Now a great tip with avocados is that often when you buy them, they are really hard and you certainly can't spread them. So put them into a brown paper bag and put them into your fruit bowl. And the darkness allows them to ripen. Now on top of the avocado, I'm going to just flake some smoked mackerel. And the other fish you could use that works quite well in the morning are sardines. Just a tin of sardines and just use them in exactly the same way. Now for a bit of colour, I'm going to just cut 2 cherry tomatoes, and these are almost like eating sweets. I'm just going to top it off with a few chili flakes, bit of black pepper, pinch of sea salt, squirt of lemon. Now you tell me you haven't got time for breakfast in the morning.
So thanks very much to Hannah for that recipe, and it looks delicious too. All right guys, so we are reaching the end of today's program, but if you have a story that you would like to share, or if you're going through something still and you'd like some advice and to be on this show to get advice from the experts, then do get in touch with us. You can go via our website, chrissybshow.tv. You can also tweet us at Chrissy B Show and also leave a message on our Facebook page, The Chrissy B Show. And if you want to know more about me and more on how I overcame all the mental health issues that I had, you can visit my website, mylifeafterdepression.com. Until next time, bye-bye for now. First of all, we have... Sorry, Michaela, I forgot to tell you that I'm going to do that bit first before the video. I've liked this show today. I've enjoyed it. It's been good, hasn't it? One. It's been interesting. Thank you, George. Thanks for your support. Yeah, it's all right. It's all right. Nah. Okay. And this one is with someone called Lauren McIveen, I think it says. Now let me start again. Lauren McIlveen?